This is the voice of the New York Football Giants, Bob Papa, and you are listening to the best throughout Europe, the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast.
Welcome back, Giants fans, to the latest edition of the Big Blue UK9 podcast. As always, we are proudly in association with Annie's Mountain Club. Let's remember, it is okay to talk. And tonight we are 100% British. And as always, we're still, at this point of the season, we are still 100% Giants. Therapy night number 12 is now in session. A surprise, surprise. The Giants lost to Washington on Sunday to leave us firmly in the run-in for the number 1 overall pick in next April's draft. But there's still a lot of the season to go. There's still 3 weeks to go, and we could fuck that up royally at any point in time, and no doubt we probably will. Joining me tonight in session, Aaron and Craig, as we look back what was, let's face it, an incredibly disappointing loss. Boys, how we doing?
Ah, God. Do you know what? It's funny. You say we're still 100% Giants, and I was actually having this thought the other night where I was like,
are we?
Should we just bin off the "Let's Go Giants" at the end of the show, because it feels like it's never reciprocated. So why should we make a point? But yeah, it's weird. It's getting to that point now where it's like beyond funny, and even though I've obviously had my rant a few weeks ago about how everything was going and everything, it feels like I've gone from it's pissing me off to I don't care to it's now pissing me off again, because it's just that bad. And it's just nice to be able to wear something like this and know that there is one team in New York who can do something, even though, as Aaron and I agreed off camera, it is the equivalency of the Carabao Cup. But it's something, it's a starting place.
There is nothing wrong with winning the Carabao Cup.
And we could go down the line of, it's almost like the FA Cup. Maybe a bit more prestigious. I don't know.
Maybe
it's a trophy nonetheless. The New York Knicks won a trophy last night. They won the in-season tournament. Come on.
And I was also saying to Aaron that, like, I don't know what it is, but it feels a little bit extra special because we went, when we were in New York, obviously we went and saw the Knicks versus the Hornets in the inaugural NBA Cup. It was the first season that the Cup was on, so it's like we have that tie to the competition, and it's just nice. It was nice. It's nice to see a New York team doing something.
Absolutely. You know what? Obviously, I would have loved to have stayed up last night to watch it, but having to work early this morning, I wasn't able to. So it was lovely waking up to that news and seeing that, and just be like, the Knicks have a trophy. Let's just hope it's the big one at the end of the season. But Aaron, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, good. Hopefully, it's the start of a New York revival in all the sports. I didn't even know it was the NBA Cup last night, but I'll take a New York win. A start of a revival. There was a game at the weekend. I've kind of forgotten about it. So I tell you what, I want to propose. I know we do a little bit of this kind of off screen and kind of work things out. I know you're about to do your normal, viewers, if you want to support us, like, subscribe, leave a review.
How do you know?
If you want Joe Shane to be fired, leave a like on the stream. Leave a comment if you're watching on catch up. Leave a 5-star review telling us that we want Joe Shane fired. Because I just want to poll the audience on how to do. So if they can make this the most liked stream of the last few weeks, we'll get the message and we'll do more Joe Shane needs to be fired content. And if we don't get lots of likes on this stream, we might just have to be pro Joe Shane on the stream, because that's what our audience wants.
Sending shivers down my spine. Yeah, go. I mean, yeah. Give us this episode a like if you think we should fire Joe Shane. I'm up for that. Drop a comment if you're catching on catch up, and leave us a 5-star review on your platform of choice if you're an audio listener. If you want Joe Shane to be fired, there we go, like that. But also, if you are watching all the available platforms, leave a comment. Let us know how the game was for you. Let us know if we should fire Joe Shane, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done already, and show us some love there as well. There was a game at the weekend. It was wasn't a great one. We'll go into that shortly. But as usual, we're going to start off with the latest news. There's been some roster changes. Craig, feel free to go through them.
Yeah, they have. One was directly down to Sunday's game, and we're going to have a little talking point about that at the end because, yeah,
Wonder what that could be.
It's just got to a joke. The two that are not a result of the game are the signing of outside linebacker Caleb Murphy off waivers, and Aaron, the designation of Evan Neal to return from IR to the team.
Desperation times, desperation measures.
Yeah, so the team have opened up his window, right? I was hoping it was his transfer window.
No, unfortunately, it's not. But Dan Duggan did put the nail in the coffin of anyone who is worried about the fact that Evan Neal might see the turf one last time in Giants blue. He did say that they had to activate somebody, and that he is likely to be a body for practice, and that is it. It is very unlikely that we see Evan Neal unless we enter injury season on the offensive line, which, touch wood, has been probably the best season we've had in a very long time in regards to injuries on that line. Not that it's made any difference to our play, despite the fact that we now have a top 10 line, according to PFF, and it's probably higher than I anticipate. But yeah,
I mean, top 10 is above average, so I think it's higher than any of us anticipated.
I think we all said at the beginning of the season we just wanted an average O-line, and we got way above that without Evan Neal. So let's not ruin things, boys. Let's take things a little slowly.
What does that say to you? I love that we had to activate someone, and they didn't have anybody else to activate. So they went, Evan Neal.
So I don't know. Maybe this is the naivety of me not looking into this enough, but it has been a very, very busy week for us all. Aaron, do you know anything about this whole they had to activate somebody thing?
So there is something around how much you spend of your actual cap money. So if you leave because his contract, he's effectively on a fully guaranteed contract. By activating him, you don't add anything to the roster, to the dead money, to the all of these promotions and elevations. There is a cost to doing that. It's small, it's insignificant, but essentially by activating Neal, there is no additional money due to him. Whereas if we'd elevated someone from the practice squad to fill that spot, there would have been money due to them. And again, it's one of the things that NFLPA negotiate in the thing, saying, look, a team can't just let their roster dwindle. We're eliminated. We could just cut as many players, or not elevate any players to have a 53-man squad. But as kind of this agreement with the NFLPA that you must do it. So, I may be putting 2 and 2 together and getting 5, but that's how I understand it.
Okay, yeah. It was kind of a little bit lost on me. Admittedly, I didn't look it up, but like I said, I didn't really have an opportunity. Caleb Murphy then. Yeah, Caleb Murphy then. He was released by the Patriots, and the Giants have picked him up on waivers because guess what? The Giants have the top pick in the waiver wire because we are that shit. He was an undrafted free agent Last year in 2023, he was signed by the Titans. This season, he started on the Chargers roster and he played 6 games on both defense and on special teams. He was then waived by the Chargers and signed with the Patriots. He was then with the Patriots for 5 games where he played pretty much exclusively on special teams outside of 3 defensive snaps for them. In 2 years, he has 19 tackles across all units, so that's defense and special teams. 8 of them solo, 6 hurries, and 1 sack. So very much a developmental kind of pass rusher here. What is what we're looking at now? I would say this kind of tips its hat to Kayvon Thibodeau being shut down for the season, and just the way that that's gone. Them going, do you know what? Let's get somebody in who we can have a look at, because it is very likely that Tibbs isn't going to see the field. And there are teams who are shutting players down now. You see that the Commanders have now said that Jaden Daniels is shut down for the season, and it will be Marcus Mariota. The Dolphins today announced that Quinn Ewers is going to be their quarterback for their final 3 games, with 2 are being benched. That's probably not shutting him down for the same reasons. He's probably being shut down because the Dolphins' offense against the Steelers was absolutely shocking. But now is the time where you will see that. There will be players who want to play through regardless. You're only likely to shut people down if there's an injury. I think if Dex's elbow started bothering him, it wouldn't surprise me if the Giants shut him down now for the season, because it is pointless keeping him out there.
Exactly.
But if they do that with Tibbs, at least now we have somebody where we can have a look at him. Caleb Murphy's quite a big guy as well. Sort of 6. I think I read earlier 6'3". So on that kind of Thibodeau lengthy pass rusher. But
decent.
Let's talk about the final roster move. The one
we have to.
It's pissed me off, but in the same breath, I know why. Why it's happened, that is, not why it's pissed me off. I'd be very worried if I hadn't realised why it had pissed me off. The final roster.
Why has it pissed you off?
The final roster
move.
It just has. The Giants have cut Younghoe Koo following Sunday's poor showing. He missed 2 field goals. One was a 52-yarder early in the game that would have tied it up 3-3. The second early in the 4th quarter. In fact, it was the first play of the 4th quarter that would have reduced the Commanders' lead to 5 points. Now, the pressure was obviously already on Koo after the botched field goal attempt against the Patriots. They had the bye week in between. But that now means that the Giants likely move on to the 5th person to attempt a kick, because bear in mind, Jamie Gillan did attempt 1 during the season. And their 4th kicker. And it's looking likely that practice squad member Ben Sauls, previously of Pitt and Pittsburgh, the Steelers, in some weird twist of fate, he's done both the college and the NFL's version of Pitt. But he's expected to be the next man to step up. Now, I was looking at other teams, and the only team who's used more than 2 kickers this season has been the Colts, who have had a little bit of a merry-go-round as well, but they seem to have settled. It's been a joke this year, and it's not the first time. We've had kicking issues for the last 3 years now. I want to say that this has been going on for. And like I said, with 3 games left, I'd imagine that Ben Sauls is going to close out the season. They're going to see what they've got there. Aaron, what do you think the Giants got to do going forward? Do they need to maybe pay a little bit of a premium to just get somebody in who will carry us through for a few years, because there are always kickers that shake free, obviously, in the off season? Or is this a case of where you maybe have a look at the college game and you try and unearth a gem that you either use a late pick on, or you try and look at that UDFA side of things?
Yeah, so that's sort of what Ben Sauls coming in is, right? So he was a UDFA kicker, has not kicked in a game yet. Is on his third practice squad of the season, but I think, again, there's no point carrying on with Koo, who's clearly not the answer. Have a look. Gano was a highly paid kicker. I think probably we had him too long, and should have gone, well, actually we should have moved on a couple of years ago. Obviously, it wasn't something that wasn't really addressed. We had Jude under this practice squad developmental international player that we were hoping was to get there, but he had to. If you look at how the kicking game has moved on, and the Giants of all teams have experienced how a 60-yard field goal is now the new 50-yard field goal. Not us getting them, as having them put on us. So yeah, I think the idea is that we need to we do need to try something else. But I think it's just been part of the whole mismanagement of the kind of free agency market and bringing in competition and developing players, because in previous seasons, we didn't bring a camp kicker in to challenge Gano. We haven't brought in a camp punter to challenge Jamie Gillan. We've had one of the highest kickers and punters in terms of salary, that kind of special teams room in the season. So paying money doesn't guarantee you success, So, it's I had it as a trivia question. Can you name all 6 kickers that have kicked for us since 2022? And I'd forgotten some of the guys that are on the list, and most of them were this season, right? So we've tried guys that have been successful in other places. Maybe Mason Crosby was a bit past it, but he was a really good kicker in Green Bay for a number of years. Greg the Leg coming in and kicking for us. So it's tricky, right? But we've had miscues on specials that have cost us games, extra points that have cost us games where we didn't have a kicker at all in the game and lost by conceding 6 field goals. I know we're trying to erase all of the memories, but it's there. So yeah, I don't think it's the worst position on the team in terms of how it's been managed, though.
Interesting.
Dan, what do the Giants need to do? Because obviously we've had Gano. We all said in the off season, like, we love you, Graham. We thought you were absolutely amazing. It hasn't worked out over the last 2 seasons. We need to get your cap space off of our roster and find a replacement that's cheaper. Bye bye. And it didn't happen. And then he gets injured, and obviously we have Jamie have to kick a field goal, and then obviously we bring Jude in, and Jude does it, and then Gano comes back, and then he's injured again, and Koo's giving it a go, and we've now got Ben Sauls who's going to go. It's not a good look for the franchise in the slightest. We've mismanaged it. We keep mismanaging roster decisions anyway. But what are your thoughts? I mean, I'm just having a very quick look at the unrestricted free agents for next year that will be coming out of potentially leaving their teams. There is an option that these guys won't be there and they will get re-signed. But you've got Daniel Carlson from the Raiders, Joey Sly, Matt Prater. Matt Prater, admittedly, is 41 years old, and I don't want to go down that road again.
No.
Riley Patterson, Eddie Pinero, that they're all going to be available. I mean, I'm not saying no to someone like Daniel Carlson if you can get him on a good value.
No, and I think you'd probably be negligent to not look at that option. In all honesty, draft a kicker. For me, draft a kicker, because the management of this position over the last couple of years has been nigh on embarrassing. The fact, like you said, we've had 5 players attempt kick this season, compared to our nearest competitor in Indianapolis, have had 2. That just shows you what poor management of this roster we've had, and extremely poor management of this position we've had. Granted, they obviously had that link with Gano, and they're paying him the money, and obviously there would have been dead money if they'd have cut him at some point, and all of that. And obviously they've got that loyalty to him, which obviously loyalty is a big part of this franchise, right? And so yeah, like he's come back from injury. Let's give him this year, and then he was it week 1 he got injured. I can't even remember at this point. But it's just been this merry-go-round, this is sort of like just revolving turnstile of who's kicking for the Giants next. I mean, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if they brought Jude back and said, "Yeah, give it a go." Like Ben, give Ben Sauls a bit of competition.
So interestingly, I was just having a look at the PFF stats on all the kickers. Now, none of them meet the minimum stat threshold to have a proper, legitimate ranking, but they have PFF grades for all their kickers. Dead last is Jude McTamaney.
So they're going to bring him back then.
Is Young Wei Koo. So we've got the 2 worst kickers of everybody on the list. Gano is basically the 20th, 25th kicker in the list. So we haven't had even average kicking.
No.
And
Graham
the one thing
below average.
But the one thing that does frustrate me sometimes is the fact that we've not had a big leg kicker for a long time. We've got kickers regularly doing it from 55 plus in the. We've had an NFL record. Was it 68 yards this season? And it's almost like we need to be sort of in that mix. We need that big leg kicker that can do it from anywhere. We need a Brandon Aubrey. We need a Charlie Smith who's come through the IPP International Player Pathway and is now doing it for the Saints. I mean, he nailed the game winner at the weekend. And you need someone that's reliable, that can do it from 50 plus, 9 times out of 10. And even a fully fit, fully functional Graham Gano at the beginning of the season, would you put your house on him hitting a field goal from 50 plus? Probably not. And what you got to remember is if you've got a kicker that can do it from 55 plus, that if you're in that sort of range, chances, and you fail to convert a third and it goes 4th down, okay, we'll bring the kicker out, no problem. So you're putting points on the board at this, and where we've suffered previously is not putting points on the board. Now that we're putting points on the board on offense, and it's like, okay, but we're still missing. We missed 2 at the weekend, so at that point it's a 2-point game. And if other things had gone our way, the punt return and everything, then we could have won this game. That's it for me. Draft a kicker. Use that 6th round pick. Use that 7th round pick. Draft a kicker that is legitimate talent. Be bold, because you don't see kickers drafted very often, but when they are, they generally turn out to be pretty damn decent. So for me, go down that route. I think paying an experienced player, if again, it's a good move, but drafting somebody, the money is obviously a lot less, and you then got them for 4 years potentially. Draft them.
Yeah, exactly. It's that cost control, right? So
yeah.
If you get average kicking performance, but on a rookie contract, that's fine. That saves you $3 million on the team.
100%.
Right.
But if Joe Shane's still the GM, we don't draft a kicker. It's as simple as that.
Cam Little, who's the record holder for the kick, drafted in the 7th round by the Jaguars this season. Or not last season, I should say. He kicked. He's missed 1 extra point in his career, so he's 98% on his extra points, and he's 88% on his field goals, which is better than Gano has been as a Giant. And he's also kicked along a 59 last year and a 68 this year. So Graham Gano's never kicked longer than a 56 for us. So it just sort of shows you that, in the same way running backs on rookie contracts outside of the 1st round are probably
good value.
Really good value to teams, because you can go and find these late round guys that play at a starter level on team friendly contracts.
Yep.
Maybe kicker's the next one. Maybe kicker
you
should be looking to have a rookie kicker at all times, a rookie contract kicker at all times, because why pay any more?
Exactly that. I mean, you just got to look back at the last few years. Tyler Bass drafted in the 6th round in 2020. Evan McPherson in the 5th round in 2021. Anders Carlson drafted in the 6th round in 2023. Cam Little in 24 in the 6th round. Will Reichard in 2024 by the Vikings. And Tyler Loop this year by the Ravens, obviously, as what's his name?
Was it the Patriots kicker?
And the Patriots drafted a kicker as well, yeah. What's his name? Can't think of his name.
It's something exotic.
Yeah, but yeah, obviously they drafted what's who was the Ravens kicker before? Justin Tucker. His replacement. And all those kickers I just named have been everything, including consistent in this league.
Yeah.
Right. So and they've all the majority of them have big legs and will regularly hit it from 50 plus.
So it's interesting. I'm just looking at the Giants' sort of all-time thing, and obviously Gano has come in at a time where the 50-yard kick is being made and being attempted a lot more than anyone else. So he's actually made 26 50-yard plus field goals, which is 17 more than the next best person, who is Joe Danello from the 80s, who made 9. So. Yeah, he has very much been that kind of good 50-yard range kicker for us. It's just unfortunate that it's now getting to a point where we can't trust him. So you now you have to move on. You have to move on now. Because
I was going to say something that was talked about pre-season, and we might have talked about on the podcast, but the NFL changed the rules around cables and how you break them in and how you use them.
Yes,
and
yeah.
Was talking about this, and he basically said that using broken in cables that you've had time to prepare and everything else is worth probably about 5 yards to your range, and we've kind of seen that this season. This season there has been a jump in 55 plus field goal.
Absolutely.
And guys that are, even if they're kicking a 50-yarder, it's sailing over like it was a 40-yarder. We've not necessarily seen that benefit as the Giants. And, if say Gano had a little bit of fall off in power, but it was made up for by the cables, that's what we would see. We'd still see him be hitting the 45s, 46 when he's fit. Yeah. And maybe not being able to get beyond 52, 53. And I think that's what it is. But you kind of just knew on Sunday, that first field goal that we went for, it was like...
Dan Duggan tweeted out 5 seconds before that. I think it was 2-3 minutes before that. He said, Koo attempted a number of kicks from 50 plus yards kicking in this direction. He did not make any of them, or he really struggled, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
And I tagged him in a post saying, you might as well call yourself Nostradamus, Dan, from now on, because he literally called it exactly as it happened. So, obviously, I don't want to stick on the kicking point too much, but I just want to tie up just one thing with the whole Jude McTamanay thing, because obviously there are loads of people who have been saying, "Oh, he should come back" and all of this, and I just want to kind of say that as a story, I think the Jude McTamanay thing is fantastic, and it's fantastic for Ireland, and it's amazing for the growth of the game in international pathway. But as Aaron's just said, he is statistically the lowest ranked kicker in the NFL this season. So as amazing as the story is, I don't want him back on the Giants, because feel-good stories don't win you championships, and they very rarely win you championships. I would rather have a competent kicker. If he ends up becoming a good kicker or a great kicker somewhere else, whether that be in the NFL, whether that be in the UFL, whatever, fair play to him. But I don't see any benefit at all in him coming back to the Giants. At all.
and we've had him on the practice squad for 2 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And if if this is where he's at after 2 years, it's almost like maybe it's not for him. Maybe the pros isn't for him. Maybe someone like the UFL will be a good spot for him to develop himself more in game situations.
And players have come from the UFL
absolutely
and in the NFL. It's not
absolutely have.
A lot of these players look at some of these other leagues as kind of like as a bad word, as a swear word. But don't forget, Kurt Warner doesn't exist in the NFL without some of these lower leagues.
It doesn't exist in the NFL without NFL Europe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And also as well, like you've got the CFL as well. There's another option there. So yeah, it might not, his football journey might not necessarily be over, but I think for now his NFL journey may be sort of on the back burner. And yeah, at least for the Giants. All right, I suppose we better talk about the game.
30 minutes for kickers. So.
I suppose we better talk about the game. Don't worry, I won't mention the kicker, or will I? Where do I begin? We now have an 8-game losing streak, thanks to the Washington Commanders, who snapped their own 8-game losing streak by beating us 29-21 at the weekend. Yes, Aaron, 8 games we've lost in a row. They swept us for the second straight season as well. It doesn't really get much better. It's now the Giants' worst losing streak against the Commanders since they lost 6 in a row between 1981 and 1984. So you've got to go back 40 years since we lost 4 or more games in a row against this Washington team. Another lackluster performance across the board. First half was a disaster. Commanders are up 22-7 thanks to a trio of field goals from their ever reliable kicker that we don't have. Jake Moody, I think it is. Yeah, it sounds about right. And a 63-yard punt return. Yay, bloody special teams. Jalen Lane is, you know what, it was a great return as well, and fair play to him. It was a great play, but just a shame we couldn't make the tackle. We responded after halftime, 82-yard touchdown drive that ended with an 18-yard touchdown pass from Jackson Dart to Tyrone Tracy. Young Hui Koo missed a field goal to open the fourth quarter. The Commanders extended their lead. Defense did manage to force a fumble twice in the last 6 minutes, but only one capitalized after that. After we turned the ball over on downs with 1 minute and 37 remaining, and then it was game over. There's plenty of negatives to this game. We're not going to go into loads of detail, so we don't sound like a broken record because we've probably spoken about all of them at least half a dozen times this season so far. But not elevating Gibson or Smith-Marset when Gunner hadn't been officially cleared meant Javon Holland having to field punts is just ridiculous. And again, negligence of this roster management. Why are you not elevating one of those two players that is a punt return specialist? Instead, you're putting one of your top defensive backs there in the game to return or field a punt. What are you doing? Slayton drops the ball. He's again, and you've got to question Darius Slayton at this point because there was 2 really key drops in this game from him. And Jonathan Vilma, who was on comms, said, you rarely see that from Slayton. Do your research, mate. Give me a break. It's more common than you realise. And to top it off, Mike Kafka made quite a few head-scratching decisions, including a challenge on the third play of the game to challenge the spot of the ball when it didn't really make any difference whatsoever. Because it was a third? Yeah, it was a third down, and it was a case of even if the challenge goes your way, it's going to be 4th and inches. They're going to go for it, and chances are they're going to run a quarterback sneak, and they're going to get the first down anyway. So just save your challenge, keep yourself a timeout, and just get the fuck on with the game and accept it. And also play calling on goal-to-go snaps, going for field goals, knowing your kicker was having a shocker. The list could go on and on and on. So Mike Kafka, right? Obviously, he's had this sort of 7-game audition to become a potential head coach in this league. He's halfway through that audition now. He's 4 games in. He's 0-4 as a head coach. Granted, the record doesn't necessarily say everything about him. But Aaron, how do you think he's fared so far in his audition? Oh, he's sitting up straight. He's on mute.
Shit.
Cool.
So I
care to elaborate?
I think the thing that really stood out to me is this is coming off a bye week against an opponent who wasn't coming off a bye week, right? The rest advantage, the chance to spend extra time studying your opponent, studying yourself to come up with an improvement, to see if you can break some of your tendencies that give away what you might be doing, and to come out and play the worst game of the season, right? And, certainly one of the worst starts to the game. I think the head coaching decisions, I think, like you say, to me, there was 3 pretty terrible decisions early in that game. Was to challenge on that 3rd play, like you said, to not enforce the holding penalty on 2nd down, to put it to 2nd and 30, and to take them out of field goal range, because a 2nd and 20 from I don't know what it was about a 50-yard field goal, a 52, 53-yard field goal. You're going to play a conservative defense because you'll try to stop them for a first down and force them to a kick. But we gave up 12 yards, let them have a 40-ish, 41, 42-yard field goal, which was, kind of automatic, like we've been talking about. You do 3rd and 30, and they're just hoping not to turn the ball over. They're not the goal. If they get to 10 yards, you're now at a 51-yard field goal. You increase that. You drop that chance down to a 75% chance of it going over. Potentially, they run a different play call completely because they know that they're not. 10 yards is not what they're trying to pick up. They're trying to pick up 15 plus, and maybe you get an opportunity to create a turnover or something else. I just don't get the non-enforcement of that second that holding penalty. And we've seen plenty of time us give up 3rd and 20 for a first down as well this season with our defense, right? So I didn't see that, and then going for the field goal instead of going for it on 4th down on the following drive just seemed like real head scratchers, like more conservative than Dave's. And we were all slating him for his conservative play calling. I think the offense has looked like it's regressed without losing any more players than we had a few weeks ago. And obviously the defense is still not to par. The only thing that maybe you can give him credit for and put the shades on, Abdul Carr had his best game of the season, and obviously they've been riding him. He's reacted positively to that extra pressure. Is that a product? But the other changes, we changed DC, and maybe the DC was putting Carter into a better position to take advantage of his talents. I don't know, but Carter almost rescued this game for us.
Yeah.
He did have some explosive plays, which is what we want to see from a top 5 draft pick and a guy with his potential. But I don't think the current coaching staff is the answer. Carm Brasillo, please save Carm Brasillo. Pay him head coach money and keep him. Anyone else, I'm not bothered about.
I agree. I agree.
He was always going to have a tough gig taken over from Dave's. But is this all on him, or is this the roster we've got, or is this where we're at as a team, or is it a combination of all 3, Craig?
I think you could probably argue it's a combination of all three. I can't remember who it was, whether it was Aaron or Shane or Kev. I know it wasn't myself, and I know it wasn't yourself, Dan. I know it was one of our esteemed analysts on this wonderful pod. Who turned around and said that Kafka's kind of in a win-win situation because he can turn around and if we lose out, he can say, look what I had to take over. I'm trying to make chicken salad out of chicken shit here. I haven't been able to do it. And that's the way it's gone. If he would have won a couple of games, he could have turned around and said, hey, look, I was able to get a little bit out of them. I think I did a lot better than the previous head coach who was in there. Scenario A is the way that it's gone, unfortunately, for Mike Kafka. But he could quite easily walk out of this and maybe have a sort of dent in the armour of, okay, could he be a head coach in the future? But with what he'd taken over, when he'd taken over it, the way that we were playing, I think he probably gets a pass. I totally agree. I think the offense has regressed massively since he's had to take on the head coaching mantle. I don't think they've been as good. All you have to do is look at the game at the weekend where we left points out there. The Slayton drop on the touchdown is a key example of that. But you look at the goal to go situation where we were first and goal. He calls a Jackson Dart run that then everyone gets scared because Jackson Dart takes a hit and he has to go for a concussion check, despite the fact that it was another one of those bullshit ones. And I'm sick and tired of the narrative around Jackson Dart that, the kid's going to have CTE. He's had one concussion. One. Yeah. He hasn't had a concussion every time there's a check. He's had one concussion. Half of those checks, as Aaron rightly pointed out, what was it, 5-6 weeks ago, one of the first ones, it hit his shoulder. They hit his shoulder. It was nothing to do with his head. So he's had checks. And the problem is you've now got the commentators like Vilma turning around and saying, Jackson Dart can't take these hits. I don't like the designed run. Jackson Dart is a running quarterback. You're going to call design runs for him. Just because he then gets hit doesn't mean it's an automatic concussion check. But anyway.
His name's not Tua.
No. After that, we have the Devin Singletary run, which ends up with -2 yards. You have Jameis Winston still in the game at this point because Jackson Dart hadn't gone into the tent because I think he was confident we were going to score, which guess what, we didn't. You then have the incompletion from Jameis. Dart comes back in for the 4th down. You have the incompletion. Really strange play calling. Not exotic in any way, not trying to get anything going really in that. And I think that's one of the biggest shows of the regression that we've had on offense under Kafka. The biggest problem is because he is now head coach, everything falls on him. So the defense playing shit and parting like the Red Sea to allow that touchdown is on him. The special teams decisions, that's on him. The fact that we didn't call up somebody knowing that Gunner was in concussion protocol and hadn't officially cleared it, that's on him. He will take a lot of the blame. I just feel like he can deflect it. I think just the one thing that you can guarantee is that the more that the Giants show a lackluster product on the field with some of their higher paid talent, as well as the depth talent obviously not showing up, I think Joe Shane's stock in that building is plummeting by the week.
Yeah, and I think obviously, like you said, with the regression of the offense, I think because we had the Packers game was his first game in charge, wasn't it? And then the Lions. Those 2 games weren't bad. They were both close games, and the offense looked half decent. It was just the week after the Patriots game and then this game that it's just looked like the Giants of old. It's just like kind of just fallen back into old ways, and it's just really sloppy. And in all honesty, we're just playing really poor football on the offense at the moment. And some of the play calls, some of the decisions are being made. They are, like I said, they're head scratching. You just don't understand. Grant, he's a rookie head coach. He's in there in the interim. He's still got 3 games to go. 2 of them, in my opinion, are winnable. This weekend, maybe not so much, but we've still got to play the Raiders. And we know how bad they are. So the writing's not necessarily on the wall for him yet in terms of his future as a head coach because he has still got 3 games. but at the same time, it's not particularly been the best shown so far. But again, it's gonna come down to not necessarily being all his fault. He's been dealt the cards he's got, and he's now trying to make the best of it. But then, unfortunately, the last two games haven't been great. And like you said, Aaron, as well, the fact that we've come off a bye week, and not just come off a bye week, but we're coming off a bye week against a team that's lost 8 straight, against a team that was without their starting quarterback in Jane Daniels, was without their starting tight end in Zach Ertz, has injury issues on offense and defense, and yet we still put out a performance like that. It's absolutely criminal. It's absolutely criminal. And in all honesty, I think Mike Kafka needs to take a real hard look at himself and go, what the actual fuck did I do in that bye week? Because that's when you should be rallying those players to get those last 4 games of the season out of the way and have a bit of pride and hold your head up and finish the season on a bit of a high. And now we've got 3 games to go, and we think, where are we going to get a win from? Are we going to get a win? And in all honesty, there's plenty of people on this podcast, and there's plenty of watchers and listeners that don't want us to get a win because they want that number 1 overall pick. Me being a supporter of this team for a long time, yeah, of course I love to see us win. I don't want to see us lose each week, but I can't really. I picked the Giants to win this weekend. That ain't happening again for the rest of the season. So,
you just need to follow Shane. Whatever Shane does, we all just follow. Shane is now the leader.
Yeah, and Shane will not lose that position for the rest of the season because I am picking the other team in every game the rest of the season because I don't trust us to win. I don't trust this team, and it's a sad state of affairs we find ourselves in. Because we all do bleed blue. We all are massive Giants fans. And it just sucks to be in this position. I said in the group chat on Sunday, 2-12, this fucking sucks. Mm-hmm. Like, really fucking sucks. And you just got to hope that our fortunes just turn around soon. I think, I'm fully like on the Fire Joe Shane train right now. I just can't see this franchise moving forward with him there. Whether he goes off and joins up with Dave's again somewhere else, good luck to him. But I just think his time in New York is done. Bringing a new GM, bringing a new head coach, bringing a new OC, a new DC. Bring the changes because that something needs to be done. And what happened 4 years ago clearly hasn't worked. So let's start over. We've got a great young quarterback. We've got a great young nucleus of this team, plus some decent vets there too. So I think now is the time to start off afresh. Aaron, you want to talk about Joe Shane and free agency?
Yeah. So I've been flip floppy fence sitter on whether we should keep or fire Joe Shane. There's the argument, you say good young nucleus to the team. Is that to the credit of the GM and some good draft picks? His critics will say, well, the draft picks he's hit on, we all would have hit on, and it's the down the draft board that later in the day they 3rd round, 4th round picks that we need to do better at. Anyone can hit on a day 3 running back, right? And I think drafting has been okay. Everyone likes to talk about is it a 22 draft class? Look at everyone's 2022 draft class. It wasn't a great draft year across the board. Generally, there was a lot of talent that was poor. The whole COVID thing and all that kind of thing with the people coming out and people sitting out and all that kind of thing, and extra eligibility. But free agency, I think, maybe another area to thing. And free agency is hard to judge. So you can measure the signings he has made, and we'll do that in a minute. But the signings that he hasn't made or the moves he hasn't made in free agency maybe harder to pick up on. And we've talked about, we know we were in for Will Fries at guard, and I know our O-line's been good, but actually Will Fries coming in at guard may have been going and spending all the money on a top guard would put our O-line in a much better position, and maybe the difference between a few more wins punching it in at the goal line and not. What that did do is open up the ability to sign Javon Holland, and he's coming in with a PFF grade of 55.6 this season, so not a good grade, which is 39th for 46 qualifying safeties in the league. So he's looked hit and miss. Obviously, he's been back returning kicks, which I don't like when you're paying a guy all that money returning kicks. And is that, because we didn't spend money on, a proper returner or a second returner in the squad and spending the money elsewhere to bring that guy in. And then Paulson Adebo, PFF grade of 53.2, and has played 5 of all the corners, played 525 snaps. Adebo is ranked 53rd out of 60. So 2 big money additions to the secondary. The whiff on Banks, it was clearly a place that we needed to strengthen. We spent money, but did we get the right guys? Have we spent the money wisely? Should we have spent the money on retaining our own free agents in McKinney? And who's performing 3rd out of 60 or 46 on the safety kind of rating. So those 2 guys have got a combined cap hit of 42.9 million next season. They ain't going anywhere. They're going to be on the roster. One argument you could say is we've got this shit scheme, and in a decent scheme, these guys will look every bit worth their money. That's the only hope I've got for those guys. But certainly they haven't transformed our defense with the money that we spent. Then the other free agent that we signed that I think was an absolute shocker was our favourite tackle, not named Evan Neal, in James Hudson. Hasn't actually played enough snaps to get the overall ranking, but I can tell you of all players with at least 50 snaps this season, he has the lowest grade of all tackles on the thing with a 32.5. At the time of signing, it looked really bad. He didn't have a credibility behind him to show that he could be a swing tackle. I don't think he'd ever ranked above 50 in his last 3 seasons. Still a relatively young guy. I think he's 26, going on 27 next year. But we gave him 12 million over 2 with 8 million guaranteed. That's a shocking contract for a guy that is horrific.
For a guy that gave up 4 penalties on 1 drive.
Yeah, but even before what he's done in a Giants jersey, if you look at what he did before,
it's not value for money.
It was that strong, for that money. So yeah, that was a terrible thing. And then Slayton. So this one I think is a harder decision, right? So there's a bit of a sentimental, emotional thing to Slayton just getting the money he's deserved maybe in previous seasons. But 3 years, 36 million, 12 million APY, 22 guaranteed. So there's no savings if you cut him after this season because of the guaranteed money he's basically getting 8 of his 12 million guaranteed next year if you cut him. So he'll be on the team another season, but he hasn't, he's 103 of 130 wide receivers, so 59.7 grade. So not playing near his contract, but just looking at the kind of players with the APY kind of numbers and looking at what that is. So you've got Khalil Shakir, you've got Darnell Mooney, Jacoby Meyers, Rashad Bateman. Now, those are the guys that are in that kind of £1 million bracket, and then you've got like a big jump of about 5 million to what you would describe as the really good receivers. Obviously going all the way up to sort of 40 million a year now for Jamar Chase. But those rank, Shakir is number 41, Myers is number 42. So both clearly above where Slayton's ranked. But you've got Mooney at 126 and Bateman at 110. So both of them below Slayton's ranking of 104. So is it bad money? Yes, but it feels like actually all receivers that are about this sort of money bad. There's a few rookies, first round rookies that have got contracts in this kind of range. So like Marvin Harrison's on similar money, these kind of things. But their rookie contracts, they're kind of structured. They don't really count in kind of this APY. They would either get a lot more or a lot less depending on how they perform in their rookie contract. But the guys that are on second contracts, it just feels like actually if you've got a receiver in this market, actually what you're better off doing is trying someone else. Because actually the guys in this sort of range don't tend to, none of these guys have really taken a leap. Shakir's having his best season, but he's been sort of the number one target in Buffalo. Myers is, maybe had terrible quarterback play and is maybe worth more. Obviously, comes out of the Raiders to the Jags. But it just feels like maybe this wasn't great money. I don't begrudge Slayton getting the money. But it's probably another example of not wise spending. And then the final point I just wanted to chuck in there before I wrap up and give you guys some chance to see if it's changed your mind about Joe Shane, is the where was I going with this? It's the opportunity that we're not getting by being a bit more dynamic with these kind of positions and a bit more changing on the roster. So are we going to give Wan'Dale Robinson that similar money moving forward? Do we have confidence that he's the right thing? I know people have credited him for managing the cap. The cap's in an okay position, and we've got a lot of flexibility because we're not using void years. But for me, a key sign that the Giants might be out on Joe Shane is there were no extensions in this bye week to some of the key free agents that we've talked about. So there was no conversation with Jermaine Illuminor, no conversation with Cordell Flott. Micah McFadden, who's nearly back and he's clearly going to recover. There's no talk of him trying to get him in on the cheap, on a cheap extension. Kimlin's coming off his injury, so that to me, I'm sure that's a sign that he's not sticking around.
I think I put this to you earlier when you said about the players that you were going to talk about, and I said I agree with them apart from one. There's one that I don't agree with. And the one I don't agree with in the terms of the narrative around him and the fact that he has a PFF grade of 39 out of 46 is Javon Holland, because it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, you're looking at his numbers, and the reason that he's got such a low grade is because he has a 49.9 coverage grade. And then you look at the fact that he's allowed a 57.1 reception rate, which is 0.4 more than Brian Branch. Yeah, Brian Branch has been targeted, admittedly, 8 more times than him and given up 5 more receptions. But Brian Branch has allowed 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, 6 pass breakups. Javon Holland, 2 interceptions, 2 touchdowns allowed, 1 interception, 3 pass breakups. He's allowing an NFL passer rating of 95.8. Brian Branch is allowing 119. Brian Branch's coverage grade is a 74. How is Brian Branch's coverage grade 25 points above Javon Holland with worse numbers? And this is my problem with PFF grades, is that you can rank him as low as you want to rank him, but actually he's not doing that bad. He's got 2 missed tackles on the season. Like, as a safety, he's not doing as bad. He is a victim of a poor scheme, and I actually think Javon Holland's going to be a lot better next year.
Yeah.
Adebo does worry me. Adebo worries me much, much more than Holland, because I think Holland was brought in as a safety knowing that we needed someone, and we were kind of hopeful that Tyler Nubin could make the jump, and he has and hasn't. In areas,
Mm.
Nubin's been better. In areas, he's been very poor.
The jury's
And
still
I
out
do-
on him, isn't it?
Yeah, I worry about his speed, but I think we were almost like all in on Adebo as CB1, and we needed him to be that CB1, and he hasn't been, and that's the big problem. The Hudson one is horrible. Like one of the worst roster decisions you will see for a while. But Slayton, you're right. We don't really have. We what option did we have? What option did we have? And as H-Town says there, the whole team are victims of poor coaching, and I think that's the biggest problem. The Javon Holland one's just weird. I've seen so many people shitting on Javon Holland, and I just think to myself, he hasn't been amazing, but he's definitely not as bad as a lot of people, including PFF, seem to make him out to be. The PFF grade is odd.
Yeah, so I think Holland, from the Giants fan point of view, we're looking at X and going, we let that guy go.
Yeah,
and this
100%.
Instead, and they're clearly not playing at the same level. The PFF grade one is even if you're not targeted, did you win your rep? So there are because our defense has been so open and we're covering nobody. He hasn't given up the yardage because there's a blown coverage on the other side, or there's a blatant it's actually neither person's has covered the right person or whatever. So although he's not been attributed with some of the stats, there have been times where he could have been targeted, wasn't targeted because everybody was fucking open.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I do agree with that. I think H-Town makes a good thing in saying, we need to get someone next to Dex, a CB, a linebacker, tackle, guard, wide receiver. Like there's a lot of things there. I do think safety is one area where you could probably say we'd pick up a day 3 pick for a safety and we'd probably be happy with that room. It's probably one of the stronger rooms out of our defense and the whole team.
But if you're sat at 6 in the draft, are you going to say no to Caleb Downs?
I'm hoping we're not sitting at 6 unless we've traded back.
Yeah, but and I say 6 because subliminally 6, but Caleb Downs might be the best available for us where we're drafting, whether that's with a trade back or beating the Raiders.
Yeah, absolutely. But you're pairing Downs with Holland, aren't you? You're not pairing Downs with Nubin.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. But again, I don't think either of the two guys that we've got playing safety prevent you from drafting.
No, that's fair. That's a fair point.
And I think this time last year, obviously we looked at Brian Burns. Obviously he was a big sort of pickup at the beginning of last season, and we looked at Brian Burns sort of almost a year into his Giants career, and he disappointed last season. This year he's been an absolute revelation and probably been our best defender all round. And so, I look at this list of players and I think Adebo still got a lot to prove. Javon Holland, man, he's still got things to prove as well. Hudson, I'd rather him not be on the team. Slayton, I mean, we knew what we were going to get. We knew what we were getting with Darius Slayton. Did we pay him a little bit too much? Possibly. But another team was always going to pay him that money anyway. So it's better to sign him up and keep him on the team. And he's a team captain this season as well, right? So I think it's not been a great year for him, but then we're a 2-12 team. So it's not been a great year for anybody. I think obviously if the dice had been rolled and they got rolled a different number and our cards have been dealt a different hand, whatever, Neighbours not being injured, Scatterboo not being injured, Dart not getting his concussion, just those 3 alone, we'd probably be in a better situation now than what we are. And some of it is pure bad fucking luck. Michael McFadden being injured and not in the first quarter of the first game of the season and not seeing him for the rest of the year. We've had some real hard luck with some really key injuries this season. So I'm not. Yes, they're at the moment they're looking like free agency kind of misses. But let's move into year 2 and see what they're like in year 2 with a new DC in place, with a new OC in place, with a new head coach in place, hopefully a new GM in place too. And let's have a look at them this time next year and see where they're at. And I think, they're as good as our record says, 2-12. So you don't expect them to be firing on all cylinders because we've lost 12 games. And when you're on defense and losing 12 games, you're not going to be setting the world alight. So I think I agree with everything you said, Aaron, in terms of they've had not great seasons, but let's sort of try and look at where they're going to be next season, a la Brian Burns, because I think he's come on leaps and bounds this year compared to what he was last year.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I'm not out on the players as such. I just think
it's just
they're not good enough deals to say that actually Joe Shane deserves to stay. Like, he hasn't been such, it's not like he's been amazing in the thing and we've just been unlucky with injuries or this, that, and the other. These are questionable deals.
Yeah.
They may turn out okay, but they certainly weren't Howie Roseman deals.
No, exactly that. They're not on the face of really good deals. They're kind of like, oh, why have we spent all that money? We hope it can only change under a new GM, because let's face it, I think that's all we want right now. Is we're going to get a new head coach, we're going to get a new offensive coordinator, we're going to get a new defensive coordinator. You might as well make it a clean sweep and get a new general manager in there. And come Black Monday, which is going to be coming up in 3 weeks' time, 3 or 4 weeks' time, we might see the back of Joe Shane and a new era in MetLife Stadium. But we can only live in hope, right? We can only live in hope. And on that note, unfortunately, that is all we have time for this evening. We'll be back on Friday at the usual time to preview our Week 16 game at home to the Minnesota Vikings, who are fresh off an upset win against our division rival Dallas Cowboys. So they're going to be well up for the game. So make sure you tune in then. But anything else to add before we go, guys?
No, just let's just keep these episodes rolling because it means we're closer to being done.
Yeah, and remember, if you want to fire Joe Shane, like the stream, leave a comment, tell us you want to fire Joe Shane. 5-star review telling us this is the best podcast from Europe about the New York Giants, and you want to fire Joe Shane.
Hey, look, if the main man Bob Papa says we're the best podcast in Europe, you better believe it. And give this episode a like. Fire Joe Shane. Yeah, we roll on. Week 16 coming up. Who can believe it's Week 16? Who can believe it's Christmas next week? Where's this season gone? It's another what feels like another wasted season, another season down the pan. All our hopes and dreams that we had back in September have all but been washed away.
Do you reckon we can get Band-Aid to do a charity single for Giants fans? Because do they know it's Christmas?
That's a very good question, mate. Maybe we could recreate it. No, it's not happening. Before the listeners and viewers get on it, it's not happening. Just saying. But yeah, tune in Friday for our preview of the game. I don't know whether we're looking forward to it or if it's just going to be another painful showing. My guess is towards the latter of that, but we'll see. They could prove us wrong come Sunday. Check out all our socials for our latest news. Find where we are in the description. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell to be notified when we're going live. Give this episode a big thumbs up. Fire Joe Shane. Thanks everyone watching and listening for your comments this evening. As usual, we appreciate you all getting involved. My thanks as ever go to Aaron and Craig for joining me. We're signing off. Until next time. Let's go Giants.